had to really had to nestle a birdie chance and go at least 3 foot past just to make sure of the par. And I've now got myself, I'm keeping an internal scorecard, but I'm also just paying attention. I've now hit, at least 5 to 6 very good contacts in a row with all the different clubs. And I go to the 7th hole, which you can be aggressive. I'm always teeing off last at this point in time, and with the alliance competition, it does affect your individual choice. But this is a tricky 7th hole because it's out of bounds left, and there's a lot of indigenous bush left. You can drive the green, but even if you don't hit a good driver, just make sure you finish in the bunker traps, which are sort of 30 to 25 yards short of a very narrow but very wide green. And they've put the pin in a very central and front right position. So I've actually hit a driver that started to move away from the fairway line, and it's fading, so it's not my preferable shape on this hole. I think a draw from a white tee position does favor the driver, and I've got myself a really lucky break because it did hit the rough, and it found a really favorable bounce to find the fairway. So I've now got another one of those 42-45 meter shots that a lob wedge, it'll definitely find a spot where I can not worry about releasing too much, because it does feel like the cup is cut on a slope. And I'm now just rehearsing the shot, and I feel that I've got a very good pre-routine where I'm going through just what's happening during contact, and I feel I am taking some of those rehearsals into the actual swing and just really focusing on my body position and staying activated throughout the shot. I've got now that lob wedge inside 6 foot, and I've got a downhill putt that I could lose to the right, but I managed to hit it dead center, and it absolutely drains for my 3rd birdie of the day. So now I'm level after 7 holes, after the first 7 at Victoria, and now I'm going into another short par 3 where an 8-iron swing is expected, and anything right of the flag is a good target line, and that's exactly what I did. I hit it pin high. It's a downhill into the wind 143 meter shot, but I take elevation out because I felt the wind was going to hurt the 8-iron, and I didn't really bust an 8-iron. I hit an easy 8-iron, and I've got an outside chance of birdie. And I'm just thinking to myself, you're making fairways, you're making greens, you're going to have a good day. Just keep in the moment, don't get ahead of yourself, and let's ride this wave. So it was a poor birdie chance. I left it well short, outside 3 foot, and had to really pay attention with the par save. So just to keep in the mind that now my internal card is telling me that on par 3s I'm level. I mean, that's a good indicator. I still need to make up the drop shot that I've done on the par 5s, but there's only 2 more par 5s to redeem yourself on this course. I then head to the very tricky 9th. It's a dogleg left. There's water trouble if you take a driver and hit it straight down the center of the fairway, so you can't actually hit driver. You've got to hit something like a 3-wood or a hybrid with a draw shape and try and avoid the dogleg that has quite high tree lines. So I hit a hybrid absolutely perfectly, and I should be thinking birdie with that type of tee shot. Unfortunately, you do get preferred lies on a day like today. The rain is really waterlogged the course, but also they have identified that with mud balls and a lot of the imperfections with just playing the ball as it lies. I do take advantage of the fact that I'm allowed to clean my ball, and it's 30 centimeters placing. So the fairways are in amazing condition, even with the amount of rain that they have received. And I take the appropriate lie that I feel that I should do, and I'm in between a 7 and an 8 iron, and it's a very tough and long green on the 9th. Pin is right back. Unfortunately, this would happen again on the 14th, but I just couldn't see myself missing left on a day like today, and unfortunately that's exactly what happened with the 7 iron as a second shot into the 9th hole. It could have been lucky bouncing off the very heavy rough position just above the hole, but it didn't, and I've sort of finished center of the green, so the club choice was good, but I just think I didn't stay within the shot, didn't let the club do the work, and I've got myself one of those flop shots that I need to pull off, and I must have hit the best flop shot to date. Well controlled, but unfortunately it did release past the flag, and I missed the par save coming back. So that could have been a level 35 for the front 9 at Victoria, and now it's on to the tough 10th, which I do stroke. Looking forward to hitting a driver where I have missed it right in the past. The draw is the right shape. Got ahead of it, and unfortunately have pushed it out right, and not a lot of tree trouble. I actually decided not to take any white stake free drops because the trees are very integral to the course, and they're young. They're under 2 clubs length height, and I hit a 7 iron absolutely dead onto the flagstick. I even get a fringe to help me with the speed, but it has gone through the green, and I've got to get up and down. And I considered the flop shot, but it really was a tricky scenario. I mean, with Victoria, with the slopes, there's places to miss and there's places not to miss, and I felt like with that aggression, it does come with a bit of a price. You know, you could actually look at the position I was in and say, well, look, to hit the flop shot, and there's the landing area on the green. Hit a chip shot, maybe with the same club, and then that's the alternative landing area. You could probably be given a little bit more area to work with in that scenario. But I ended up going for probably the most conservative out of the 3 options, and that's actually, why don't you bunt and hit that bump and run with the 9 iron, which is left out of the bag today. I've left the 9 iron out in lieu of the 4 iron, and I'm using a wedge with the conditions that I thought would be very different to a coastal grainy slopes and fairway. So a wedge was sort of being in play instead of the 9 iron, and I actually hit a very decent little bump shot that hit the slope exactly where I wanted it, and it did release a little bit more than I expected, finishing past the pin on the left, and now I've got about a 9 footer to save par, and I do, and that's a 3 stable foot points. And going on to the 11th, the par 5, you've got to take advantage of the par 5s. It's another driver. I hit a very decent baby draw that takes the big tree out of play at Victoria, where the water lines from about 175 meters to the front all the way on the right side. It's quite a narrow shoot if you want to lay up. But I'm on a downward slope, unlucky not to get a full release with the driver where I could probably hit a 5 iron full shot with no problem. But I actually looked at the lie and I said, well, I don't really need to hit 3-wood or hybrid and chase this thing. I'm going to hit a 3 iron and get myself into that biggest area, which is at the throat of the green, versus actually going for the small target of a green that's very well bunkered and there's trouble left and right. So that was the play. It pulled it off, and I've got a very good birdie opportunity with the up and downs that I have been practicing, and now I've decided not to hit the lob wedge, and I am about 30 yards from the pin. I pick an area that is about 22 yards because I know it releases, and it didn't. So now the guaranteed birdie is not there. I've got to really make an outside of 9 foot birdie, well, even it's outside of 15 foot, and I'm not sure of how this ball is going to move at the hole, but it actually started to straighten, and unfortunately I missed the the cup to the right. So the pace was perfect. Really finding the experience of playing at this type of course very helpful for the short game and the touch and getting into the feeling. And I felt quite bad that it was a par on the 11th. I really thought that could have been the hole that brought me back to even, because great first shot, tee shot, great second shot layup, and really anything left of the flag, it would have been inside 10, inside 9 foot without me going towards the line that I thought that would get the release, and it didn't. So if I had that shot again, I think the third shot would have been much more aggressive to get me inside that birdie range, and it would have been a lot more level on the left hand side of the flag. The flag's actually quite far back. It's like 25, 26 paces, with the length of the green being 31, 32, 33. And yeah, I felt like I've dropped the shot because 4 was on. I mean, that would have been level with the par 5, and I'm still 1 over after 11, and I'm going to the stroke 1. The stroke 1 really asks for a very aggressive driver tee shot. Anything on the fairway to the right of the center of the fairway is the play. And now the 9-iron has been left out of the bag, and I think that would have been the right shot for the approach. So I squeeze an 8-iron a little bit too far, and I'm bunkered on the stroke 1. It's going to be very tough to get up and down from where I was. But I pulled off a really amazing bunker shot that I thought sort of replaced the flop shot that I hit on the 9th. And I've now got myself an outside chance of making par. That could be 3 Stableford points. Just wasn't to be. I'll take the bogey. I'm now 2 over after 12. The 13th is always a tough short par 3. You never really hit wedge or gap wedge other than those 2 clubs with a very elevated 125, 126 meter to the center shot. The pin is right into the front left, and unfortunately my gap wedge finished pin high to the right, and it would obviously roll further away from the pin. It is a very small target, postage stamp type of green. I didn't up and down with the lob wedge, so I'm now 3 over after 13. Another tee shot that I really need to be aggressive is the 14th, and I hit an unbelievable tee shot that gave me about 165, 166 meters. Stand corrected. I mean, it must have been 134, 135 meters, but it's elevation to a very, very difficult pin, which is far cut back on the shoulder, and the distance that comes to me is the 165, 166 meter distance, because it's playing way longer than what 133 or 134 could do for you, and the height would hurt you with the wind that was actually on the top of the hill. So the difficult part of the course, I should have actually reconsidered my line, just with the way that the slope was putting me off, and 6-iron was hit, and I've put myself under the tree, the worst place, and that's asking for a 6. So not much more I can say about that. That's anything right of where I was would have at least had a par or a bogey chance, but I've now hit 2 tee shots, the one at 9 and now this one at 14, where I finished left of the target line, and it's asking for trouble. So that's not where you want to be. I'm now double bogeying the first double drop of the day, and that comes at 14. So I'm 5 over with 4 to play, and the rain is coming down really hard, and I managed to hit another tee shot with the driver very aggressively, and I've got myself another one of those 42, 45 yard lob wedges, and I don't go left of the flag. I get a very bad bounce, which is expected on this hole. A lot of people play this hole very differently, and I 3-putt for the first time today. So now I've double bogeyed for the first time today on 14, and I've 3-putted for the first time today on 15. So So the question is, what can I pull out for the next